All right, so we are talking about quiz 2. We had some problems with E360 last night, so you might not have been able to submit your work for quiz 2 in E360, but you should be able today. So submit it today in E360. Okay, submit work in E360 today. That's fine with me. I have to make sure that it's available still, but that's fine. So submit it to me today. Now, in my math lab, some people said they got kicked out or whatever. All right, and I think Sunny said it too. So I'm going to show you in MNL, that's just short for my math lab. Okay. In my math lab, you have to have your computer set up properly, and that was what I encouraged the first couple of weeks of school, to make sure you know how to have that set up properly. Because when you get into, it's not due till tonight, you are correct, okay? But some people were freaking out because E360 wasn't working right, so they couldn't submit their work into E360, so now you can today, that's perfectly fine. But my math lab, some people were having problems as well. If you're on your own personal computer, you have to make sure my math lab is set up properly. So, under the help button, click on the help button in my math lab. There is all the help support information that you need to call Pearson. But down below, if you read it, it says, do the following before taking any quiz or test. And it kind of goes through some recommended settings if you're using Firefox, Safari, and so forth. So if you're taking your quiz, you might want to have like a web browser open like CNN that updates with their news every 3 minutes or so. That will keep your web browser open. And what does step 3 say? If it says you get an internet connection, make sure you click on the retry button. Okay, make sure you click on the retry button. So just some helpful hints. I would call Pearson Tech Support to make sure that you have your computer set up properly. If you take it on the school's computer, everything should be fine. Okay, does that answer your questions? So at the beginning of class, we were talking about if you didn't get into, you couldn't take quiz 2 because of E360, you couldn't submit your work.
Yes, Parker, yeah. It wasn't because of E360. I just didn't do it because it's not due until today.
Oh, you're fine. Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's okay too. I kind of want to encourage you guys to stay on top of things, like ahead. I'm not talking to you, Lacey, but just in general, stay ahead of the game. Stay ahead of the game. So yesterday I wanted you to attempt one attempt of quiz 2 so that today you have time to redo it if you need to. Okay, but I know some people's work schedule or life is just, you know, kind of hectic at times. So it is not technically due till tonight. Okay. Now, I want to do section 2.5 first today, just so we go through the material, but then I want to spend some time. I know some people have already come to my office to get help on homework 2.4 and 2.3, or they stayed after during my office hours. Okay. I'm kind of curious, who does not have a class and can stay for my office hours right after? Change your color to yellow. Yellow if you can stay after 2 o'clock. Yellow if you can stay after 2 o'clock. Okay, so there's several of you. So I would encourage you staying to get help. And I know some of you, like Scott, has to work. Are there some days, Scott, where you don't have to work?
Yeah, it's kind of just random.
Okay. So there you go. If you can stay, it's probably good, beneficial for you to just ask questions. Some people will just stay and do their homework, and then when they have a question, they just talk. Yeah, and I understand, Tish, life happens. So, but, you know, use academic services. Ask me questions when you can. Okay. All right. So, the quiz is due tonight, as well as homework 2.4. I'm only collecting your quiz work. Okay, but I still want to encourage you to show your work on everything you do in math. Okay, it just helps you learn math better. Just trust me, it does. It helps you learn math better. Okay, so we're not doing worksheets all the time from now on. I'm going to go through my PowerPoints this time. And someone had asked, could I make those PowerPoints available? I already did. They're under document sharing. So course tools, document sharing. And you can have those, you are welcome, Ella. You can have those printed out. Sometimes, like if I print them out for myself, I'll put 6 slides on one page just to save some space. Okay. But still come to class every day. Still take notes. If you want to take notes on this, that's fine. All right. In 2.5, we're kind of taking a break from equations, okay? We're taking a break from equations. We're going to go into inequalities. And an inequality is like less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. Okay, that's what we're going to spend time today and some tomorrow too. Okay, I'm going to turn off my video. Oh, okay. Thank you, Emma. I read that really quick. You're fine. We're going to solve linear inequality. So we're not really going to have word problems, which, woohoo, right? We're going to talk about what if you have to solve by adding, multiplication. Some of them have 3 parts. And, oh, I spoke too soon. There are some word problems. Okay. Just so you know, if I were to solve this problem for x that equals 2, and if I were to graph it, it's just a single dot. Solution set, your only answer is 2. We are going to solve this kind of stuff today. I'll show you it. But if we get an answer of x is less than 2, I bet you're used to, on a number line, drawing an open circle and coloring it to the left, right? I bet you a lot of you are used to doing that. Instead of an open circle now, we're going to use parentheses. And the parentheses opens the direction that you are coloring. So make a note of that as you're taking notes. Make a note of it. Okay? If your answer ends up being x is greater than 2, normally you would do an open circle at 2 and color to the right. But now instead of open circle, it's going to be parentheses. Okay, I'm going to make my own little cheat sheet here, and this is not on the slide. Okay, so here's my little cheat sheet. Let's just do the inequalities. So write this down. If you have x is greater than, let's do -4. You are used to writing, here's -4. You're used to writing open circle and drawing an arrow to the right. Now we're going to do parentheses and draw an arrow to the right. Okay, when you're doing this in my math lab, they'll give you multiple choice. Okay, so you don't actually have to draw it yourself. X is less than -4. You're probably used to drawing -4 here, and you're probably used to an open circle to the left. You're now going to do parentheses to the left. Okay, what if it is x is less than or equal to -4? All right, let's do greater than or equal to just to keep the same pattern. Greater than or equal to -4. Okay, it's going to look like that top one, but instead of a solid circle to the right, very good, Brad. Very good. Either you read ahead or you are just super smart. Good job. And x is less than or equal to -4 would be a bracket to the left. All right. Okay, and again, it'll be multiple choice. Now, my bracket's not the greatest. Brackets means closed circles, and parentheses means open circles. Change your color to green if you kind of remember open and closed circles from before. Change your color to green if you kind of remember that from before. Okay, now I'm going to do one that's a combination of things. Let's say x is between, it's greater than 2, but less than or equal to 5. X is greater than 2, but less than or equal to 5. Here's 2, and here's 5. So I'm really coloring in between, right? I'm really coloring in between, but am I equal to 2? No. If you were to color in between, this is what it would have looked like before, right? It's greater than 2, but less than or equal to 5. We're now going to have parentheses to the right of the 2 and brackets to the left of the 5. So it's kind of a combination of them. Okay, let's do one more. Let's say x is less than -1, or x is, let's do less than or equal to -1. Let's switch it up. X is less than or equal to -1, or x is greater than 3. Now, yes, brackets with the line under. Good, good. And you know what? That actually might help out a little bit. Tish, I think you came on to something. I never thought of this before. She said with the line underneath, you're going to have a bracket. And think of those as rigid lines. There's a line here. There's rigid lines there. Good. And with the parentheses, it kind of looks like the curve, but you have to be careful. It's not necessarily all the same direction. Oh, you'll see. We don't have applications later on today, Nate. Good question. All right. And there's so many different jobs that use math, but each job is going to use different parts of math. So if you are an engineer, oh my goodness, you're going to use math all the time. If you're an actuary, they deal with insurance and numbers. They make lots of money. They deal with numbers all the time. Okay, so here we go. Or is significant. That means it could be one or the other or both. So I can actually draw this on the same number line. So I have x's less than or equal to -1. So that's where I'm going to do the bracket and shade to the left, or greater than 3, but that's just going to be the parentheses and to the right. Okay, so those are really good examples of all the different types of inequalities. Okay, so we're going to do different problems with these. You're welcome. All right, yeah, you're fine, Natisha. Okay, while you're copying that, I'm just going to take roll really quick. Change your color to red when I call your name. Isiosa, Lacey, Derek, Sarah, Ella, Emma, Nate. Nate, I'm glad you're here. You were gone for many days. Danielle, Jake, Melody. John is missing in action. Nate, I didn't see you Wednesday. Oh, sorry, that was Emma. Never mind. Emma, I was one line off. Emma, I haven't seen you in a few days. Okay. I know yesterday there were some issues with E360 getting in. Someone, I want you to type right now, how do you get into our web conferencing 2 or 1 o'clock class every day? What's another way besides E360? Scott, John, Brad, Tish. Where in my math lab? Karsten, Naomi, Amanda, Jessica, and Sunny. You guys are awesome. Almost everyone here today. Woohoo! On the first page of my math lab? Good. And I like Jake. You wrote MML. MML, my math lab. Good. So very first page is another way to get it. Yeah, it's right on the first page. And that very first email I sent you guys to get at the beginning of this semester, even before semester started, there's a link on that attachment, and I bet you in the email too. So there's 3 different ways to get into my math lab. All right, now in the book on page 91, they have what I just did right here. They actually go over in class, or in the book on page 91, but I like mine with numbers better, so that's why I showed it to you with numbers. Okay? All right, to me it was just a little bit kind of overwhelming, so I just showed you a quicker way. Okay. you know what? These are different little properties, and you can look at them. But you know when we have an equation like x, oh shoot. Let me just give you an example. If I say x plus 2 equals 3, and I want to solve for x, don't I subtract 2 from both sides? That's the same thing with inequalities. If I say x plus 2 is less than 3, I can still subtract 2 from both sides, and I can say x is less than 1. Okay, so kind of the same rules with inequalities as there are with equations, except for the multiplication and division. I'll get to that in a minute. So let's look at, I don't even remember where this is in your book, but it's solving linear inequality. It's the same steps as solving an equation. If you can, get rid of fractions or decimals first. Then move all the variables to one side. Then get that variable alone. So it's very, very similar to inequalities. Thank you. This is page 95. You are awesome, Ella. Okay. So let's look at this. It says to solve. That's the first thing, solve. Then the book says to graph it. Then, actually, the book says to do this second. I don't like that. And the book says to do graphing third. I'm going to tell you why I don't like that order. So I changed the order. If you were to look at example 1 in the book, it'll say a different order. So let's go through it and then I'll explain why I don't like their order. So solve 1. You got k minus 5 is greater than 1. Basically, you want to get the variable alone on one side. So what are we going to do? Sarah, go ahead and change your color to red. So how am I going to get that minus 5 over to the other side?
Add 5 to each side.
Perfect. So k is greater than 6, right? Now, this is your solution. That's step 1. Step 2 is I want you to graph that. So you have to know what that means. K is greater than 6. So on a graph, and in my math lab, it's just multiple choice. Okay? So you're going to, here's 0, here's 6. Greater than 6, how am I going to draw that? How am I going to draw that? Well, I'm going to color to the right because it's greater than. Any number greater than 6 works. And then I'm going to do my parentheses. That's it. That's all it is for the graph. Now, for the solution, they might say something like this. K such that k is greater than 6. So this is really your answer, but they might put all that extra funny stuff. Yes, you're right. It is easy enough. Now, step 3 is interval notation. The interval notation looks almost exactly like the graph. So that's why I do it next. I do interval notation next because it looks like the graph. Okay, you're going to go from left to right. You're going to look at your graph from left to right. The first thing you see that's colored in is a 6, and it's a parenthesis, so I'm going to write 6. Then it's always a comma, and then what's the last thing you see colored in on the right? What's the last number you see on the right that's colored in? Is there one? Infinity, good. So it keeps going on and on forever. Do you know what the symbol for infinity is? It's a sideways 8. Now, infinity always has parentheses. Yep, that is good. 8 sideways. You're right, Ella. You can't really type it in. Infinity always has parentheses. Okay, we're going to do another one. I'm just going to make this one up. X plus 3 is less than or equal to negative 7. Okay, you guys solve that one for me. You solve it, then I want you to graph it. You practice on that. And I must really commend you guys. You are doing awesome at your attendance, first of all, and you're doing awesome at participating in class, and you're doing awesome at keeping up with all the work. So keep that up, and I know some of you are a little behind. Get caught up as soon as you can. I know some of you are saying that your work schedule is changing. You're telling your work that, you know what, I cannot work this much. It needs to change immediately. So that's good. That's good. It is very hard to work full-time while you're going to school full-time. So, all right. So I think what you did was you subtracted 3. So did you get x is less than or equal to negative 10? Okay. You graph. Okay. Now when you graph, oops. Here's 0, here's negative 10. We're going to color to the left. And what kind of symbol do I have at the negative 10? Bracket. Good. Bracket. Okay. So now we're going to look at interval notation. In interval notation, you kind of look at your graph, but you're going to write it from left to right. Left to right. What's the leftmost thing? What's the leftmost thing? The leftmost thing is negative infinity. Now, why do I have to say negative infinity? Because we're on the negative numbers, okay? And whenever you see infinity or negative infinity, you always use parentheses. Okay, then you follow it to the right, and what's your rightmost thing that you're coloring in? And I kind of erase the number underneath it. Negative 10. And what is your final, so comma, negative 10, what's your final symbol? Brackets. That's interval notation. That's how you do all of your problems. This is your answer for your solution set. This is your answer for graph, and this is your answer for interval notation. So let's go back up to the notes, right? Because we're going to put in interval notation for that green one that I did. Here it is. Okay, so this was graph, and now we're going to do interval notation. And sorry that it's on the right-hand side. I like to do it right underneath. Oh, that's sloppy. If I ever get in the corners or up towards the tops of the pages in PowerPoints, it doesn't like it. So sorry if it gets a little sloppy. Or bottom of the pages. So interval notation for this one would be parentheses, negative 4, comma, infinity, parentheses. The next one's going to be negative infinity, or parentheses, negative infinity, comma, negative 4, parentheses. Always put commas in between the numbers or infinity. The next one's going to be, from the left, is negative 4, bracket.
Mrs. Parker, why is that a negative 4? Why isn't there a bracket right there?
Because it's not included. It's just a parentheses. This one here. So see how it's just strictly less than? There is no equal to sign, so you're always going to have
Okay.
Good question.
Okay, yeah.
Good question. Now the bottom two that I just drew are going to have the brackets because it's equal to, less than or equal to. So they are going to have the brackets. But if you notice around the infinity and negative infinity, it's always parentheses. What brackets means is that it's equal to. So brackets, I think it was Tish earlier kind of reiterated that. Brackets means equal to. Can you ever equal infinity? No, infinity goes on forever. What number is infinity? You can never equal that last number because it keeps going on and on forever. So that's why we have to leave it open. Parentheses is kind of like leaving it open. All right, then this one, I like these the best for interval notation because it's really easy. You don't have to deal with infinity. The leftmost thing is parentheses, then a 2, comma. The rightmost thing is 5 and a brackets. You're done. So I like interval notation doing it last because you just follow your graph. It just looks like your graph. Okay, who wants to write the last one for this? And I think we got this writing part down. You guys work on that last one. I'm going to open up my math lab while you're doing that because I want to see something, your homework. And I'm going to move this up so you guys can see that. I'm going to find a homework assignment just so you can see how you're going to enter your answers in. Okay, when you're comfortable, go ahead and write. Okay, I see some stuff already. I see some answers. Okay. Now, Jake, you're close. Oh, I don't know if that works, Nate, for the infinity symbol. I don't know. Now, for this one, let me change it so I can write on it. You have to kind of be careful. Always look from left to right. So I'm just going to say that up here. Left to right. Okay, so if you look at the left, very good, Sunny. You're going to have negative infinity here, parentheses, negative infinity, comma, to -1, bracket. Now, you don't know this symbol yet, but put a capital U. Well, it looks like a U. It doesn't have that extra line underneath it. And then parentheses, 3, comma, infinity. It ends with infinity on the right-hand side. You didn't know that U thing. I just put that in. So if you wrote or, it's okay. When you do multiple choice, it'll just put that U in there for you. Very good. And Jake, I think you just got them switched around, right? You're not coloring in between the -1 and the 3. You're coloring to the left and right. And that's very common to do. Oh, I see where you put. Jake, how did you get that infinity symbol? Is that Alt plus 236?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to try it. Hold on. Hold the Alt and then the, whoa. Then 236. No, it's not working. Okay. Hold the Alt, then 236.
Yep, just hold it in, press 236, let go, you got the infinite symbol.
Mine's not working. The number 2, the number 3, the number 6. No, mine didn't work on my keyboard. Well, if it works for you, right, or a special brain. Okay. Oh, let me try the number pad. How do you do 236 all at once? You guys have like special fingers. No.
Oh no, press them in order, not all at once.
Oh. There, I got it! Yay! You guys are teaching me stuff. Oh, you guys are cool. Thank you so much. All right. Oh, teaching your teacher stuff. Those are good days, right? Okay. Let's look at this classroom example too. Well, no, I'm going to skip further. I'm going to go to a harder problem. Ooh, let's look at this big one. I think you guys are good enough. I think you can get to this big stuff. Okay. Classroom example 4. Now, if you want to look at example 2 and 3, they are in the book. Look at the book. It's really good. Books are good. So we want to solve this whole thing. Just think of this guy as an equal sign and solve it kind of like you normally would. I'm going to show you the trick in a minute. Okay, so don't we have to simplify each side first? Okay, and I'm going to just take this negative and I'm going to distribute it. I have 6x minus 6 plus 3x. Keep the symbol greater than or equal to. Negative x, and then when you distribute the -3, you get negative 3x minus 6. I can tell I'm going to learn a lot from you guys this semester. It's awesome. Okay, now don't you keep simplifying the left side? 6x plus 3x is 9x minus 6 greater than or equal to. On this side, you get negative 4x minus 6. Are you all okay? Change your color to yellow if you're okay. Oh, look at all those yellows. You guys are awesome. Lacey, Scott, and Tish, any questions? Well, I know. It does take a little bit of time. Okay. Now what would you do? You guys tell me. Again, don't worry about the symbol right now, but what would you do? Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. I would do what before Danielle adding the 6? So it would be nice. Okay. Yeah, I would do the x's first But Daniel, your way would work just fine. It's just, it might create a little bit more, steps sometimes, and it can create a little bit of confusion. Do you remember when we had no solution or infinitely many solutions? That's where it could cause some confusion. So I would just move the x's first. So I cancel 13x minus 6 greater than or equal to, what's left over? Whoa. Okay, but what, there's one other thing. Negative 6, right? On the right-hand side. Okay. Now what would I do for a normal equation? What would I do? Add 6 to both sides. Perfect. That's where, Jessica, you were working ahead, weren't you? Which is fine. So I have 13x. These will cancel. These actually cancel too, but it actually goes to 0, right? And then what? Divide by 13. What is 0 divided by 13? 0. It's not undefined. It's not undefined. So there's my solution. There's my solution. Now I'm leaving a little space over here because I'm going to do this problem another way on purpose because I'm going to show you something. Okay. Down here, let's go ahead and graph it next, which is going to be greater than or equal to 0. So brackets to the right, because it's greater than or equal to. And then your interval notation, that's shorthand, would be brackets, 0, infinity, parentheses. There you go. Are we okay with this stuff so far? Okay. Now, I'm going to show you something. Yeah, seems okay. Now, what if, now why would someone do this, but what if someone subtracted 9x from both sides? That is perfectly fine. But I want you to see what happens. So negative 6 is greater than or equal to negative 13x minus 6. Then we would add 6 to both sides. So I have 0 is greater than or equal to negative 13x. Now this is where I want you to pay attention. When you multiply or divide by a negative number, this is the step right here. When you multiply or divide by a negative number, does anybody know what happens to the inequality? It gets flipped. Very good. Very good. So I get 0 is less than or equal to x. So when you multiply or divide by a negative, your symbol gets flipped. And isn't this the same answer as what we had here? X is greater than or equal to 0. X is greater than or equal to 0. The open part is towards the x, that's open towards the greater part. Okay, so I just want you to see that. Just want you to see that. So if you're multiplying or dividing by a negative, you want to make sure you flip the symbol. It gets switched to the other direction. It's the only thing that's different about inequalities than equations. So let me show you, like this one here. Let's do this one. How am I going to solve? I'll go back, Tish. Let me write negative 9m is less than negative 81. Negative 9m. Let me do that over here. Negative 9m is less than negative 81. How would I solve? Now, that's a whole different problem. How would I solve that problem? What would I do? Divide both sides by negative 9. As soon as you multiply or divide, what does this change to? Greater. Just flip it. Greater. So m is greater than positive 9. So that's the only thing you have to remember. Just remember that, and you'll do good. I'm just going to look to see my slides. Oh, while you're doing that, I'm going to show you a homework problem. Go ahead, keep looking at it. I'm going to try and find a hard homework problem. Maybe one with fractions in it. Well, that would be good. But you guys might be in luck. I don't see any fractions. What? Aren't you guys upset about that? No fractions? You did have one? Okay, I'm looking. You're happy about it. Okay. All right. I'll find one with, I'll just find an easier one. Okay. Number 6. Oh, I didn't have it. But I can show you one with here's one with fractions, but I'm going to show you your homework one first. Whoops. Okay. Just so you can see different problems. Okay, on your homework, this was my number 3. It may not be your number 3. But if I were to ask you to solve this, I'm just going to put it up over here. 3x plus 7 is greater than or equal to 13. I'd subtract 7. I know I'm going through this fast. You get 3x greater than or equal to, what is that, 6? When you subtract, it's fine. It's just when you divide, you can't do that. So x is greater than or equal to 2. So down here, you would put a little dot there, and your solution set is, ooh, now how do I do this? It says interval notation. Well, here's the thing. I am not very good at interval notation unless I do my graph first. So I'm going to do my graph. Greater than or equal to 2. That's my graph. Greater than or equal to 2. Now I can do my interval notation to infinity with a bracket. So when you do your interval notation in that box, you're going to type bracket to infinity parentheses. So the book is actually going to ask you to do your interval notation first, and then it's going to ask you to graph. So I, on the side of my paper, I just graph it first. So let's look. So here's your homework. I'm going to show you. The solution I just said was, oops, come on, number 3. Was that the right one? Yeah. Brackets. Now, on the left, I think on your keyboard is a bracket. Yeah. Bracket. 2, comma, make sure you have comma. On the left-hand side, they're going to give you the infinity symbol, and then close it with parentheses. And let me hit enter. So I got that correct, and then they want you to choose the best graph, so it's, in my opinion, backwards. Make sure you choose the one with the bracket, greater than or equal to, and then I'm going to hit enter. Woohoo, I got that problem right. So that's what you do for your homework. You don't have to actually draw by hand, but they're going to ask you to put the interval notation for most problems before your graph. So on your homework, just do it that way. Infinity, yes, is always followed by parentheses. You are correct. You are correct. Okay, if we look at example 5, how would you get rid of fractions right away? I'm not going to do this whole problem for you, but how would you get rid of fractions right away? Multiply both sides by LCD of 4. So I'm going to do 4 times this. Now, it's 4 times each term. Each term that's separated by addition or subtraction. So these 4's will cancel, those 4's will cancel. So you're really left with x plus 3 plus 4 times 2 less than or equal to 3 parentheses x plus 8. Then you guys could do the rest, right? You know how to do that. Okay, I'm looking to see if there's any other. I have some examples here I wanted to go over. Okay, there's some linear inequalities with 3 parts. 3 parts. For example, this is what they're talking about, 3 parts, is we've got a number, then an inequality, stuck in between an inequality and another number. So that's 3 parts. It's actually not that bad, okay? So if I look at this, I still want to get x alone on one side, or in the middle is what I want to get x alone. So what do you think I'm going to do to get rid of that minus 2. Add 2. Now remember I've been saying what you do to one side, you do to the other? Well, how many sides do I have now? I have 3 sides, so I have to do it to all 3 parts. So negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. Is less than x is less than 5 plus 2 is 7. There's my solution. Then I'm going to graph this. In the graph, you got a negative 2 and a 7. How am I going to graph this? Well, x is in between the two, so I'm going to color in between. And I have parentheses there, and I have a parentheses there, because I have just inequalities. And then your interval notation looks exactly like that. From left, parentheses, negative 2, comma, 7, parentheses. Are we okay so far? All right. I'm going to put an extra example in here, okay? Extra example or two. Because you might come into, if you notice on one of the homework problems that I showed, it had no solution. Maybe I'll give you one that says no solution. So I'm going to make it kind of, well, here, 8 less than 5 minus 3x is less than negative 1. Okay, get rid of addition or subtraction first. So I'm going to subtract my 5. So I have 3 less than negative 3x less than negative 6. Then what am I going to do? Divide by negative 3. When I multiply or divide, I have to make sure my symbols get flipped. So I have negative 1 is greater than x is greater than 2. What this means is x is less than negative 1 and x is greater than 2. This right here, that's what, when you have 3 in a row, it really means and in between. The less than is pointing towards the x, so x is less than negative 1. Let's just write that out. Less than negative 1 is this. Greater than 2 is here. Can you have both of those happen at once? There, you're looking to look for the overlap. Where do they overlap? There is no overlapping. There's nothing, no overlap. So this is not possible. Yes, you're right, Sarah. When you multiply or divide only with the negative number, you're right. So you can't have something that's in between negative 1, less than negative 1, but greater than negative 2. There's no number that's less than negative 1, greater than negative 2. So there is no overlap, so it's not possible. Okay, what about this one? X is less than or equal to 4, or is a little bit different. X is greater than 3. X is less than or equal to 4, X is greater than 3. Okay, so when you have something like this, I just draw them separate. X, they're already solved, is less than or equal to 4. So here's 4, and it's less than or equal to, so let's go in this direction. X is greater than 3. Here's 3, greater than like that. Now, or means combine them together. So if I look at my, here's 3, here's 4. I've got my less than or equal to 4 and my greater than or equal to 3. And it's basically combining all together. What's my solution? Where are things graphed? Everywhere. So my solution is all solutions. It's the whole line. If it could be one or the other or both, it's all solutions. Tish, I'm reading yours. I don't think somebody showed us in the beginning with negative infinity to negative 1, 3 to infinity. Okay, that one, let me show you. I'm going to go back to, I think that's the green one. That one was an or as well, but there was no overlapping, but it's just everything together. So if it says or, Tish, I like your comment. If it says or, it's just all together on one. Combine all. So if you notice, this is here and this part's here. You're combining it all on one graph. So that's an or. If this is really right here an and. So and kind of means it's overlapping. It has to be greater than 2, but less than or equal to 5. So that's the only part that's